cut this out now, get the mould polished up. I've got to trim this down because it's not square. It's square to about there, and then this end curves back in. So I only need the radius off the corner, so we're going to trim that off. Alright, so just mark that out, get that cut. Cuts really well, surprisingly. Right, now that needs acetoning. That's cut out, so we can gel coat that. And what I'm thinking is, if I gel coat this and that, stick that in, and I'll have the gel coat going all the way around, then I might as well, and then it just makes it so I haven't got that sort of rough finish to deal with, you know, which, you know, it doesn't matter. I've got to sand and fill and mess around with anyway, but it just saves me having to mess around with that sort of finish. It should be a little bit better, hopefully. We'll see. But I think what I'll do is I'll do the same. So we'll build this layer up, same as I've done on that one. I'll put a layer of glass in here, half thickness of glass, to bring it up to that level. Then I'll put one over the top of it, same both sides, and then I went with one right round, which worked really well. So I think the only difference I'm going to do different to that is that I'm going to go one right round, and then I think I'll put a second top piece in first. I think that's the only difference I'm going to do. So I'll put one in there, one over the whole lot, there and there, meeting in the middle. Then I'll put another one on the top before I put the layer right over. I've just had an idea. So I've laid me part that I've made into the mould, and I've just marked on there where that comes to. Obviously the bottom one's going to change, because as we get further towards the front of the boat, that gets narrower and narrower and narrower, you know, so that's going to be changed. But if I make it that size, I can trim it down. The top's going to be pretty much the same, you know, so if I make it to the top of that and to the bottom of that, I've got enough to trim. That's the plan. And a second coat of wax on there. That's it, done. Let that dry off. I've got to go sand this down. By the time I've done that, that should be ready to buff off, and we can get some gel coat mixed up and start laying that up. Well, it's a lovely day, so we're back outside. Let's get this trim sanded. I can get on with glassing up. Well, it's certainly a lot quicker than hand sanding it. Just run a bit of paper over it to make sure we got into all the edges. Ouch. There we go, done. Well, that's all waxed up now, so You can feel the difference with that wax on. Really smooth, shiny, you know, just glides over the top. So that will release nicely once we've put that. Right, so there's the one we made. I'm going to pop that outside. We'll sand that once I've got this laid up in gel coat. That gives me something to get on with while this is curing, ready to glass up. So before I can do that and get that in gel coat, I need to cut the glass to size, get that all done. So I'm going to take care of that. I've got the bottom layer there. I need one for the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this down the middle. We can get that to separate down the centre. Actually, I might leave that as is. No, I'm going to cut another one. I'll leave that like that. Roughly 5 inches. Just going to mark that there. There. And there. So now what I've got is got one hard edge, and I'm going to have one torn edge. Together, like tie in better. That's the plan. Right, so that's me first layer. Second layer slightly larger, and that will go right over into that corner with the wispy bits there going up round the bend. So when I put the next ones on, the same will happen with that. The wispy bits will go around the bend. So that's my bottom layers done. I need to do the same for the top. That's the front face. Again, I want to cover that with wispy bits. That should just about do it. There, I'll trim this one down a wee bit. Over that there. Beautiful. Now I need one right across the two of those. Could use a bit of that. Got enough to do 2 bits. Tear that down there. I have to tear it down that side so I can overlap the joins, go from one side to the other. Yeah, that'll work. It's only a locker, it hasn't got to be, not saying 100% perfect, is it? So I don't want that hard edge, that's rubbish. Rid of that. It must all have jaggedy edges overlapping. I'll need another bit to go in there, overlapping, so again it needs to be jaggedy on the end. So we'll tear this end off. That. So that will now overlap that nicely. The mould, and I want it ruffled on this edge so the wisps go up into the corner. So, like so. And I'll trim that down. No point resining that off the end of the glass work, off the end of the mould. It'll make it fit There we go. So that gives me 2 layers on the bottom side. I've got my 2 layers for the top side. I want a 3rd layer to thicken it up, and I've got my main one to go all the way over already cut. So I want one more strip for that front in one piece. There we go. We have the front side. We have the thin bits. Taunt overlap to blend that in. We have one to go over the top of those into the corner, and we have a second one to repeat the same to thicken that front up. Then we have the back side the same again. So we've got the thin bits to go on there, and then the thicker stuff to go over the top. So 1, 2, and we're going to overlap from the opposite end so we don't put the join in the same place. 3, 4, like that, and then we'll have a solid sheet over the top of all of them. I just need to lay that all down so it stays in place of where it's going. So that's going there in reverse order. Right, so we'll take that off from the top, and that's going down there in that order, so we'll lay that down there. That's all acetoned up, ready to go. Got some little bits of glass on there now. If you're not dusty in here, I can remove my mask for a minute because it is getting warm. Little fingers of glass in there and fingerprints, because that will possibly cause a reaction. So right, so that's all ready to go. Mould is ready to go. So some little sprigs of glass on there, which don't really matter. It's only going to sit in the gel coat, which is all going to be sanded and glassed and faired in anyway, but we'll remove them anyway. There we go. Right, we are ready for gel coat. Right, so I'm going to get this into gel coat now. So I'm going to lay some on the mould. I'm going to lay some onto the back side of that, pop that into the mould so that that sort of sets into there, ready for glassing up. I wasn't going to bother filming it all, but it's life of Dave. This is what I'm doing today. So I know it's the same process as we done on the other one, but I'm going to record it anyway. I'll probably edit loads of it out and just fast forward it so you can see start to finish what's going on. But for now, less waffle, more action. Let's get on with it. I've got to try not to mix up as much as I did the other day. It was way too much. I only need a coating, really. You know, it's a gel coating. Only mixing up a small amount. That's plenty. I mix it with my stick that I was using, a bit big, but that way what happens is I get the catalyst all over the paint on the end of my stick. Then the paint on the end of my stick will set, so I don't end up with a sticky stick. And we'll wipe the edge of that stick. That could be non-catalysed gel coat, so we'll just wash that down into the bowl, tub, container, whatever you're using. Just make sure it's all thoroughly mixed. Fussy, not fussy. Not saying, not worried, it's not a finished face of something. I'm not a professional boat builder. not a £1,000,000 super yacht we're building for someone. It's my own project to do it how I like. Spread that out to the ends. Try not to dribble it over the ends, because as I said before, when it runs over the ends it locks the part to the mould, which is not good. There we go. One side done. Flip it over. So it's pointless. I'll just end up with a mess of gel coat sticking out that needs sanding off. Yeah, if this was a finished part and made on a proper mould, then you'd probably want 2 layers of gel coat on it. That wouldn't be enough. I'd let that tack up and then I'll give it another coat so you get a good bit of depth to it. But like I say, because this is all just, going to be sanded and fiberglassed and everything else, fillered, faired, whatever you want to call it, it really doesn't matter. I'm only putting the gel coat on there to give me a rough finish on the part that I'm making. So when I sand it down, I can just sand this, it'd be like a filler layer that I'll sand down instead of sanding away all my fiberglass. I'm just going to brush that on quickly. There we go, so we've got a layer on there as well as what's down there. So that's going to go into there. Squidge into place. I'm going to tip that up so that stays there and don't slide down. As you can see at the moment, that's sort of just sticking in there, but it's floating around gently without a little bit of weight. That's pretty much most of the gel coat gone, so we'll just give it a little bit more over there. Brush that edge out. There we go. Alright, that's done. So now what I've got to do is leave that to set up for a bit and then we can come back and lay some glass in there.